I've always believed that the way people treat those they think can't offer them anything shows who they really are. I didn't always have proof, but I held on to that belief. My name is Emma Miller, and I found out just how true it was at a family reunion I'll never forget. Growing up, my family didn't have much, but we had love, hard work, and dignity. My father worked as a janitor at a tech company. My mother cleaned houses for rich families. They worked long hours, took extra shifts, and sometimes went without so I could have enough for school, books, and food. They never complained. Emma, baby, my mom used to say, her hands red and rough from cleaning chemicals. Education is the one thing no one can take away from you. Those words stuck with me. I studied hard. I went to college for finance and computer science. I worked nights cleaning offices, just like my dad. I was tired all the time, but I had a secret. I was building something, a financial algorithm, something that could predict market patterns better than anything out there. I believed in it. I worked on it when I wasn't in class or scrubbing toilets. During my final year, while everyone else was going to parties and enjoying senior year, I was fine-tuning my algorithm. Then one Tuesday morning, everything changed. An investment firm noticed it. They called me in, offered me $75 million and a seat on their board. I took the deal, quietly, no press, no fancy lifestyle. I kept living simply, kept investing, and kept growing my wealth in silence. That's when I met James. It happened at a little cafe. He bumped into me, nearly spilled his coffee all over my laptop. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," he said, frantically trying to mop it up with napkins. I smiled. "It's okay, I'm Emma." "I'm James," he said. "Can I buy you a coffee to make up for it?" That coffee turned into lunch, then dinner, then more. James was a high school teacher who loved his students. He had this kind, gentle energy, nothing fake, nothing flashy, just honest goodness. 6 months later, he proposed. I said yes. That's when I met his mother, Patricia. She lived in a massive home in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the city. From the moment we met, I knew she didn't approve of me. "A cleaner's daughter," she said that night at dinner, sipping wine. "How quaint, James. Didn't you used to date that sweet doctor's daughter, Caroline?" James tried to brush it off, but the tone was set. Patricia didn't want me there. At every family gathering, she made it clear I didn't belong. She'd ask me to help the caterers or clean up after dinner. "Emma, dear," she'd say with that fake sweet smile, "you're probably more comfortable helping in the kitchen anyway." Her daughter Amanda was no better. She sold real estate and constantly bragged about her success. "Do your parents still clean houses?" she once asked me, because I know a few clients who might need someone. I bit my tongue. I said nothing, because I was waiting, watching, learning who they really were when they thought I was beneath them. James would squeeze my hand and say sorry later, but he never really stood up to them. I let it go, even though it hurt. I didn't want to be the person who had to throw my success in their faces to be treated like a human being. But I had plans of my own. Quietly, I began buying properties, good ones, smart investments, all through private shell companies, so no one would trace it back to me. And then I saw it, the mansion right next to Patricia's. It had been on the market for a while. I bought it for $12 million, had it furnished top to bottom. And then came the family reunion. It was an annual tradition, a 3-day event where all the relatives gathered at Patricia's estate. I'd never liked it, but this year, I agreed to go. 1 week before, Patricia made an announcement at dinner. "James, you'll stay in your old bedroom." "Of course," she said. "Emma, dear, you'll be in the basement. We need the upstairs rooms for guests who've actually contributed to this family." James shifted in his seat. "Mom, she's my wife. And as my daughter-in-law, she should be grateful for what she's given." Patricia interrupted smoothly. "She's used to less, isn't she?" I smiled politely. "The basement's fine, Patricia." If only she knew. The reunion began on a Friday. Cars filled the driveway. People bustled in, hugging, laughing, sipping champagne. I helped carry bags and poured drinks. No one saw me for who I was, just Emma, the humble wife. That night, I took my small suitcase down to the basement. It was damp and smelled old. A cot sat in the corner. I sat down on it and listened. Above me, laughter rang out. I heard Patricia's voice through the air vent. "Can you believe she actually agreed to sleep down there?" she said. "James really should have married Caroline. At least she wouldn't embarrass us." More laughter. I picked up my phone. A message had just come in. Everything's ready, Mrs. Miller. The house next door is fully staged. The agent will meet you at 10 a.m. I smiled in the darkness. Tomorrow, everything would change. The family reunion had turned into a storm. People were whispering in corners, some shocked, some pretending to be surprised, and a few, who'd always been on the receiving end of Patricia's pride, seemed quietly pleased. James, who had been standing silently all this time, finally spoke. "Emma," he said softly, "why didn't you tell me?" I looked into his eyes, my heart tired but calm. "Would it have changed anything, James?" I asked. "Would you have stood up for me if you'd known I was rich? Because if it takes money for your family to respect someone, then we have a bigger problem than who sleeps in what room." Before he could respond, the real estate agent, who had been waiting respectfully, spoke up. "Mrs. Miller, shall we begin the inspection of your new property?" I nodded, yes. Then I turned to Patricia. "Patricia, I'll have my staff help you pack. You have until tomorrow evening to leave the house." Her voice, which had always sounded sharp and superior, changed in an instant. Now it was soft and sugary. "Emma, dear," she said, forcing a smile, "surely we can talk. We're family." I stopped in the doorway and turned back toward her. "Family?" I said, "let's talk about that." I took a breath, the years of quiet endurance finally giving way to truth. "Last Christmas, you sat me at the kids' table and told everyone I didn't know how to act at a grown-up dinner. Last month, you accidentally left me out of James's birthday dinner. And yesterday, you made me sleep in the basement because, as you said, I wasn't good enough for a real room." I didn't mean," she started. "Yes, you did," I said. "You meant every word, every insult, every dig. You showed me who you are. Now I'm showing you who I am." I walked out, the sound of my heels clicking on her marble floor echoing like a final stamp of truth. Behind me, I could hear her sobbing. Amanda, too, started yelling something about betrayal, but I didn't turn back, not this time. In the weeks that followed, everything moved quickly. Patricia and Amanda moved out, just like the paperwork said they would. Of course, they hired lawyers, tried to fight it, but every document had been perfectly handled. Every contract was solid. They had no choice but to leave. I moved into the mansion next door, quietly, without fanfare. I gave James space, letting him choose what kind of man he wanted to be. I needed time, too, time to think about what it meant to be married to someone who didn't defend me when I needed him most. One quiet evening, about a month later, my head of security sent me a message. "Your husband is at the gate, should we let him in?" I told them yes. James looked different, tired, humbled. He asked if we could talk. I brought him into my home office, a cozy room filled with photos, especially one of my parents on their 30th wedding anniversary. James looked at that picture for a long time. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said, "and I've been seeing a therapist." I said nothing. I let him speak. "I know I let you down," he went on, "not just at the reunion, but every single time I let my mom treat you badly. I thought I was keeping the peace, but I was just being weak." "You were," I said quietly, without anger. He winced but nodded. "I deserved that." I also realized something else. Last Thanksgiving, when my mom joked about your father being just a janitor, I laughed. "And you were going to tell me the truth that day, weren't you?" I nodded again. "I had the papers in my bag. I was going to show you everything, but when you laughed at your own father-in-law, I couldn't do it. I saw in that moment that you weren't ready." "I wasn't," he admitted. His voice broke, "but I want you to know I've changed since then." He took a deep breath. "I resigned from Brighton Prep." That shocked me. He'd worked at that elite school for years. "I took a job at Riverside High, the neighborhood where you grew up. The students there, they remind me of you. Smart, determined, just waiting for someone to believe in them." I felt something stir inside me. "And your mother?" "I haven't talked to her. She and Amanda tried to turn the rest of the family against you, but instead, people started coming forward. Cousin Sarah, Uncle Robert. Turns out, your courage gave others permission to speak up, too." He looked me in the eyes. "I've also been volunteering at the community center where your mom used to work. They have a class teaching janitors and cleaning staff about budgeting. I'm helping expand the program." "Why tell me all this?" I asked. "Because I want to earn back your respect," he said simply. "Not because you're rich, But because you're the woman who used to help me grade papers until midnight, the woman who made me soup when I had the flu. I didn't deserve you before. I want to become the kind of man who does. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A message from security. Patricia is outside one of your apartment buildings. She says she needs to speak with you. She's at the building. I told James. She wants to talk. You don't have to go, he said gently. I think I do. I found Patricia in the small basement apartment where she now lived. The space was plain, cold, and gray. Her designer jacket looked out of place on that worn-out couch. Hello, Patricia, I said. She turned slowly. Her face looked softer, tired, changed. Emma, she whispered, then she looked down, struggling to speak. I think I finally understand. Understand what? What it's like, she said, her voice shaking, to be judged by where you live, to be looked down on. Yesterday, a restaurant I've gone to for years refused my reservation when they saw my new address. Not so nice, is it? I asked quietly. She shook her head, tears falling. I treated you terribly. I treated so many people that way, but now, I'm the one being treated like I don't belong. I'm sorry, Emma. That was the point, I said softly. She looked at me in surprise. So this was revenge? No, I said, revenge would have been leaving you with nothing. This was a lesson. She sank onto the couch. I've lost everything, my home, my status, my son. You didn't lose James, I said, he's just finally becoming his own man. Whether you lose him forever depends on whether you can accept who he is. She hesitated. And what about you? Have I lost you too? I looked at her, really looked at her. That depends, Patricia. Change doesn't happen in a few weeks. It takes work, it takes time. Will you help me? She asked quietly. Not with money, I mean, help me become a better person. That was the first time I saw the real her, not the perfect woman in pearls, just a human being, trying. 6 months later, I hosted a small dinner party. Patricia came early to help cook. She wore a simple dress, not designer, and laughed in the kitchen with my mom. Amanda came too, after starting volunteer work at a women's shelter, which was part of the agreement when she moved into one of my rentals. James and I were rebuilding, slowly, one day at a time, not through big promises, but with steady actions and quiet honesty. My father and James talked finances at the table. My mother shared recipes with Patricia, and for the first time, the room felt full of warmth, not judgment. After dessert, Patricia looked at me and said, Emma, thank you. For what? For showing me that true worth isn't about what you own or where you live, it's about how you treat people. Later that night, James and I stood on the balcony. Do you regret any of it? He asked. I looked out over the quiet street, the lights of the basement apartment glowing in the distance. No, I said, sometimes people have to lose everything to learn what really matters. He reached for my hand. And this time, I didn't pull away.